It is Tuesday, May 3rd, 7 p.m. here in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital, WCUA's only baseball-centric talk show. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, joined, as always, here with my co-hosts, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz, and we will be breaking down the latest in the baseball world for one last time. That's right, this is the last ever edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital here on WCUA Radio. We're so thankful to everyone who has joined us over the past 4 years, and we're going to wrap it up tonight, bring it to a good conclusion, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a wonderful run. We'll get into brief remarks at the end of the episode, but like Andrew said, guys, this is our final episode. As some of you may know, all of us are graduating at the end of this year, and overall, we got really big things stored in our future, so I'm really excited to see the route that all of us take with our careers.
Hey, look, maybe one day we'll be hired out by another media company and we'll bring it back in 5-10 years. But it's been a great run, and it's the end for now, so let's enjoy it this next hour.
Let's enjoy it indeed, and actually a little more than an hour. We don't have a show after us tonight on WCUA Radio, so we will be on for around 8:10, 8:15. We're going to be shooting for an end time, so please stick with us. We have an exciting episode planned. We'll be breaking down the latest, of course, as usual, and we have some fun stuff as well. We're going to reflect a little bit on our time here on radio. And also we have some clips that we'd like to play as well. And
I'm not looking forward to the clips.
Personally, James and I are looking forward to the clips. They're pretty good, in my opinion. I think that they have some very insightful moments from the history of Nation's Pastime.
For those of you who have been with Nation's Pastime since 2018, we really appreciate you. For those who've been with us since 2019, we really appreciate you. And for those of you who are newer audiences, we just have to say welcome. Most of you guys may know I have some of the more hot takes on this show.
Some.
But overall, though, you guys have been pretty impressive so far. So let's just enjoy our final episode and have a great hour.
Absolutely. So why don't we just get right into it with the baseball news before we get all into that other stuff. And, of course, we have to start with how good baseball has been in the Big Apple, New York City, a great place for baseball right now if you're a fan of either the Mets or the Yankees. By record, they are the two best teams in baseball right now. They had a great weekend. They've had a great past couple weeks. They had a great April overall. And, guys, why don't we start with the Mets? And I think the big thing is the number one thing you have to talk about with the New York Mets is the fact that they are doing all of this without Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, it's for lack of a better term, the dominance without deGrom, deGromless dominance, as I've seen many people, in the media. John Heyman, Dallas Braden, many others have coined this phrase, and I think it's quite crazy how they've done this. Tyler McGill really stepping up at the front of the rotation. Carlos Carrasco having a great bounce back year. I know he had a rough start last time out, but overall the numbers are still there. Of course, Max Scherzer is doing typical Max Scherzer stuff. Chris Bassett, I know he's been outspoken about the baseballs, but he's also been pitching really well, with whatever baseball he's using. And you look at, offensively, Francisco Lindor's having a bounce-back year, 281 with an 815 OPS, 364 on base percentage. The Mets are the only team in baseball to have won all 7 series. They haven't lost a series yet. They took 2 out of 3 from the Phillies this weekend in a big win on Sunday Night Baseball. And, they're playing team baseball right now, and like we said in the offseason, Buck Showalter is the difference maker. There is a different makeup about this team compared to Mets teams of the past that may have lacked character, that may have lacked that it factor, that may have lacked that makeup. And Buck is getting the best out of them. You look at the guys that are stepping up, Dom Smith, a guy like Janikowski, who they're keeping over Robinson Cano, who we'll get to in a minute. But you think about, Jeff McNeil, another bounce-back year, one of the more underrated players in the game. Pete Alonso is off to an up-and-down start, but he should get on track if he continues to hit like he always has. You look up and down that order, you look up and down that rotation, and look, Edwin Diaz is back to being one of the best closers in the game, which I think is an underrated part of this Mets team. And if they keep going like this, there's no reason why they can't win the National League.
Robbie, thoughts on the New York Mets and their, like James said, their deGromless dominance so far here in April?
Yeah, no, James absolutely covered most of the bright spots with the Mets, but also one of the most underrated signings I think people don't talk about enough is Mark Canha. Mark Canha has been absolutely insane for the New York Mets. He's just been going off. And then you look at the bullpen, Edwin Diaz has been really great, like James said, and Adam Ottavino, who's been really good. But I don't think he's going to keep it up. We'll have to wait and see. One thing I do think is a little bit interesting, though, is Trevor May has been really bad for the Mets this year, and we've obviously acknowledged it several times. But even though that a guy like him has struggled, the team overall, though, has still been winning tremendously. Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, even Taijuan Walker's coming back now. All of them have significant ERAs. They had the best starting pitching ERA in baseball for I don't know how long, but it was a pretty good amount of time. James McCann's been pretty bad, to my understanding. Pete Alonso's definitely getting a little bit better. McNeil's been great. Escobar's been good. Lindor's been good. Like, overall, the lineup's been great.
Eduardo
the bullpen's
Escobar,
been good.
another free agent signing.
Yeah, Eduardo Escobar, another free agent signing. Just a great guy. And then Starling Marte, even though he started out a bit slow, I think he's starting to heat up. Last few games, he's got a few hits. So overall, though, everything that could go right for the Mets has gone right. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep this up.
Yeah, I want to raise two concerns with the New York Mets. The first one in particular is the fact that while they do have the best record in baseball right now, I'm sorry, actually, I think it's second best behind the other New York team. I apologize to the Yankees and all the Yankees fans out there. But something I want to point out is the fact that even though they have the second best record in baseball, they have the lowest hard hit percentage in baseball. Now, guys, what part of this is unluckiness or luckiness? Because at some point, that, in my opinion, has to catch up to them. They're having a ridiculous amount of luck on these balls in play. They're also playing, really good defense, which helps a lot, obviously. I mean, we saw a great play from Starling Marte, of course, on Sunday Night Baseball. As James mentioned, a big win there to cap off a 3-game series with Philadelphia. And I'm just a little concerned about that because if they're not hitting the ball hard, at some point this luck and balls finding gaps is gonna, it's gonna wear off.
I really do think though that this luck that you bring up, I don't think it's going to sustain itself for very long. I mean, one other thing that I think I want to briefly mention is that I really don't believe Adam Ottavino is going to be this good the entire season.
Well, he hasn't even been good. He's the reason that they lost the one game.
Ottavino, his numbers have been fine overall, though, to my understanding.
He was the only reason they didn't sweep.
On Saturday.
But overall, though, he's been fine. I think that was just like one really bad outing. Regardless, so I don't think that the starting pitching is going to finish the season with an ERA of that's this good.
Yeah.
I really don't think that the lineup, their averages are going to stay this hot. We'll have to wait and see how it turns out, though, but it'll be really interesting to see how the Mets do the rest of the season.
Yeah, James, thoughts on that hard hit percentage?
And look, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, obviously they're not going to get as lucky with the BABIP, and they're going to have to start hitting the ball harder and barreling balls. But if their pitching can continue like this, I mean, how many runs are they really going to have to score? And obviously they're pitching at an historic rate right now. I think their team ERA is 2.3. They're not going to sustain that for a full season. But you think about they're going to get Jacob deGrom back. Starling Marte is eventually going to start busting out of this and hitting better. You think about when the weather gets warmer and the ball starts to fly. I mean, they're going to barrel up some baseballs and they're going to keep rolling. I mean, you think about the start that Lindor got off to last year, how dreadful it was. He's already gotten himself out of that hole this year, and he's gotten off to a great start hitting 280 with an 815 OPS. So if he gets hot this summer like he did last summer, I mean, look out. And then you think about Alonso, Dom Smith, Jeff McNeil, the depth in that order. Eventually these guys are too good to not eventually start barreling up balls consistently and scoring 5, 6, 7 runs a night.
Yeah, that's a fair take indeed. I do have a second concern that I want to raise to both of you, and that's the fact that this team is so old. This is one of the oldest teams that I know of right now, and to me, that concerns me not only with the fact that as the season gets on and on and on, it's going to be harder on these old guys, but also the fact that the injury, and we've already seen it with a lot of guys, and thankfully it hasn't affected them more other than Jacob deGrom. I mean, a lot of their guys have been very healthy, but that is a huge concern for me, is the age of this Mets team.
Yeah, age is something that you really can't deny, and I think that is something that's a valid concern, especially in a 162-game season. I'm a fan of other sports, and one thing I can say is that one of my favorite teams in basketball, the Lakers, were the oldest team in NBA history this year, and they start out really well, and they just start to slow down. And it's just because the body will really take a lot of wear and tear, and your body doesn't recover as fast. So I do think that the age will slow the Mets down a bit, but the thing is that the Mets have built such a sizable lead right now in the NL East, and they're performing so well to the point. I don't know what is
3 games.
3.5 against Miami.
I mean, like if they can build that up to like 5 or 6, like I don't think that them slowing down at the end of the year is really going to ruin what they have right now.
3 games can be erased in 2 days.
I'm saying like if they get up to like 6.
Oh, you're saying if they
get it bigger,
okay.
Yeah, which I think they will.
Well, here's one count, and I look, I understand what both of you are saying about them being an old team, but I think that would help them because for 2 reasons. One, they're all hungry to win a championship. Besides Scherzer, nobody on that roster has won a World Series. deGrom is hungry. Lindor is obviously very hungry, having lost when he was in his second year with the Indians. Pete Alonso, he's won 2 home run derbies, but he hasn't sniffed the playoffs. A lot of these young, good players that they haven't sniffed the playoffs, and Here's the second reason, and I think what's most important. This veteran leadership that they have from top to bottom on the roster can't be understated. They don't have any rookies that don't know what's going on or they don't know what it's not like. Everyone knows what it's like. And the 2019 Nationals were the oldest team in Major League Baseball, led by Max Scherzer.
They also had a guy named Juan Soto, though.
That's fair at the age of 19. But with a pitching staff led by Scherzer and DeGrom in the postseason, I'm not going to count them out of anything.
Well, I don't think I'm counting them out. I'm just saying those are my two biggest concerns. And, and I guess if I had to name a third thing, guys, I mean, this is the Mets, right? We've seen this happen year in and year out. Hot start, unbelievable start. I remember 2018, that start that they got off to, they were something like 13-2, and it comes crashing down by the summer, and it's hard to not think about history because I don't think enough is different about this Mets team.
Buck Showalter, seriously, Buck Showalter and Steve Cohen.
Everyone keeps saying that. He's not some magic person. He's not going to wave a wand and prevent a collapse.
I mean, but the thing is, those seasons, like you look, that was 13 games in the season. We're 25 games into the season. They're yet to slow down.
Well, that was just an example, but like they held first place since opening day, and this was in 2021, for like 3 to 4 months, and then once they lost it, they never sniffed anything higher than third again. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but it's just concerning to me. I'm not. I personally, I'm still not all in on this Mets team. It's 3 games out. You have both a loaded Phillies team, a loaded Braves team that haven't awoken yet. Especially the Braves. Braves have just been so bad, and that they're going to get better. They had a big win last night against the Mets.
So
I don't know how they did in Game 1 today, but because I know they had a doubleheader.
Oh, the Mets won Game 1.
The Mets won Game 1, okay.
Yeah, I think it was like 5-4 or something. So wait, if you think that the Mets are going to completely collapse, and who's going to
I'm not saying they're going to completely collapse. I say I'm not ready to crown them the division title, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think anybody's crowning anybody the division title this early into the season, though. I mean,
you just said if they build a sizable lead that they could easily run away with it.
Yeah, like 7 or 8 games. I mean, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
We're not. That's my point.
I need to moderate another argument between you two.
Once we get to 7 or 8 games, I think then we'll have this conversation.
I don't know why James...
It's a 3-game lead.
I don't know why James has to moderate. We both hate the Mets.
I do hate the Mets. I'm just trying to be an unbiased baseball fan.
Look, I think the big thing that Robbie's trying to get at with the sizable lead is that they have a 5-game over Philadelphia and a 6-game lead over Atlanta. He views those two teams as bigger threats than the Marlins, who they lead by 3.5 games in second place.
Yeah.
Am I correct on that?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
See, I didn't even know that the Marlins were in second place. I haven't been paying attention. Oh my God.
Okay, so and I think, look, I understand what you're saying about revisionist history. The Mets have collapsed. They're the Mets. LOL Mets. They get hurt, whatnot. But Buck Showalter is a presence in that clubhouse. Max Scherzer is a huge presence in that clubhouse, and Steve Cohen's willingness to spend money and do whatever it takes to win is third and probably most important. And that can segue into our next point of the DFA of Robinson Cano.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about that?
$40 million in dead money.
And it's funny because they were actually talking about this. Now, look, I'm going to do something crazy here for a second, guys, right? I'm going to give credit to ESPN Sunday Night Baseball for doing something good during their broadcast. This may never happen again. I probably will never say this again, but they did a good job with something. And they mentioned they had a great conversation about the fact that the roster was shrinking from 28 to 26 on Monday, I believe it was, and this was on Sunday night. And they had serious options. Is it going to be Dom Smith, who has an option left? Is it going to be Robinson Cano, who they could DFA? Is it going to be Jankowski, who they'd have to DFA? And Dom Smith comes out and has a 4-hit game, propels them to that 10-6 win on Sunday. And all of a sudden, Robinson Cano's DFA'd. Like James says, that is $40 million of dead money that is just sitting there right now. And, I can't say that I blame them. I am a little bit surprised. I just feel like...
It was the right move.
It was the right move, but it's crazy to me. No matter what, right? The 2 failed drug tests. This guy is still talented. He's still a good baseball player. He's way past his prime.
195 with a 500
He's way,
OPS.
100%.
I think the big thing with the Mets doing it just shows that it just shows Steve Cohen's power. He can just casually drop Robinson Cano, who's owed $40 million. Like, everybody agrees that out of the 3 guys, Cano is the least talented, and you would typically say, yeah, just let him go. But obviously, you have all that money owed to him, so it's a tough situation. But Cohen has no problem just dropping him. So I think that's something I think we really need to take into account.
I agree. And okay, do you guys view Robinson's Cano overall contract with both Seattle and the Mets as a success? 3 All-Star appearances, All-Star Game MVP, 10 years, $240 million. Still has 2 years left. I believe over the life of a contract, he hit 260, 270 with an 810 OPS, but missed a full season due to steroids, and then he missed 3/4 of 2018. So he missed about, I think, 230 games due to steroids.
Both failed drug tests were over the course of this contract.
Yes.
So I don't know about that.
Well, also the big thing is like the two, like I don't know what his numbers were over that 10-year span, but I think it was like 260 or 270, like James said.
Yeah.
But the main part is that the seasons where he was really great, a lot of them were while he was taking the drugs, whereas the bad seasons, like that was immediately after.
Well, I guess we don't know that
suspended.
for sure, to be fair.
Yeah,
but like
they probably were.
They probably were.
Like
yeah,
think about it.
still.
Okay, last year he missed all of last year. What does he do this year? He's been terrible this year.
He's been
What
bad.
does he do before last year? He has the year of his career. Like it was ridiculous. It seems like every year he's great. He's taking drugs, and then whenever he's suspended and comes back, he's bad.
It's a shame too, because I mean, this was not that long ago when he was on the Mariners, and we were talking about how he's going to get 3,000 hits. He's a sure first ballot Hall of Famer, and then you get not one but 2 failed drug tests. It's self-sabotage. It's a shame to see. I mean, because this guy was so fun to watch. I mean, I'm sure the guy sitting next to me right now agrees that he was pretty fun to watch in the 2000s.
He's fun to watch, but he was also frustrating looking back at it. For those of you who might remember, Robinson Cano is one of the he comes off as one of the laziest or most nonchalant players you'll ever see. He doesn't hustle out ground balls. When it comes to fielding, you don't see him diving very often. He was frustrating, but overall, though, just such a talented guy, like Andrew said. I guess the next question that we'll have to answer
here
is,
we go.
Do you know what it is?
Is he going to play a baseball game again?
I was going to say, is he going to get signed by somebody?
Well, I'll tell you a team right now. I don't know what you guys think about this, but a team that should sign him instantly.
Go.
Trouble at second base. They're going to take in a reclamation project.
Oh, no.
They have nothing else to lose and nothing else really to gain. The Cincinnati Reds.
I knew you were
Jonathan
gonna say that.
India.
Oh, he's hurt.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, in terms of the future, he's fine.
Yeah, they have a DH. So I just take him in.
I
Why
agree
not?
that the Reds need to put butts in the seats, so I think that was my guess, too.
Robinson Cano's going to put butts in the seats.
Hey, look, anything's got to work. The other team who you could make an argument for, actually 2 teams,
I think I
the
know
Pittsburgh Pirates or
Yes.
the Oakland Athletics.
Exactly my other 2 teams.
Hold up. Okay, James, I was with Andrew last night, so I told him this. James, do you know what the attendance was last night at the A's-Rays game?
Was it like 3,600?
No.
It was 2,700 people.
And that was in Oakland, to be
An
fair.
embarrassment.
An
But
absolute
hey, look,
embarrassment.
these A's fans are boycotting purposefully, so
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
going to blame them.
No, good for them. Honestly, good
for
for
them.
Yeah.
Going back to Robinson Cano, though, look,
You mean future Red Robinson Cano?
I really have no idea where he's going to go. None of us really know.
He'll sign, though, don't you think?
I
Yeah,
don't.
it's just
Really?
You don't think he's going to sign?
At this point, what's it worth for a team?
Well, here's my argument. If Rougned Odor and Chris Owings can be on a team, so can Robinson Cano. But the big thing, though, I think we have to look at is, like, I think Cano wants to play on a contender.
Oh my!
You don't
yeah.
think,
Well,
think so?
I'm sure he does, but what contender is actually okay? I will name you one contender that might actually sign him for like league minimum. Think
Who?
about it: the White Sox. Think about it. Decimated by injuries, get a little left-handed bat off the bench. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but that's the only contender I can think of that would consider it. I mean, I really do think he just ends up with a random team like the Pirates, Reds, or Athletics just so he can just play another year. I mean,
Maybe. I don't know. You could be right. It'll be interesting to see wherever he goes. He'll probably. I don't know.
but at that point, why would you do it if you're Cano, right? Like, why not just go to the Dominican and just spend your hundreds of millions of dollars and live the rest of your life, right? Like, although it's funny. I mean, first of all, I want to preface this with saying, do you know who his agent is?
Yeah, it's Jay-Z.
Is it not? Oh yeah,
It's
it's
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
It's not Jay-Z anymore.
Is it?
It's
who is it?
Brody.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys know that?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah,
about that.
it's Brody, former Mets general manager. I didn't even know that until the other day.
Oh my gosh.
But he put out a quote. Did you guys see? He's like, Robinson Cano
Yeah, he still
is
got
in
it.
great shape. He's ready to play. He's one of the most talented baseball players this generation. It's like, okay, Brody, all right, why don't we take a step back here? But no, it sounds like he wants to play, And I know this is a thing. It's a mental thing with guys. You play baseball your whole life. It's hard to just give up. But if you're Robinson Cano, you failed 2 drug tests. You've been god awful this year. You've made over what, $200 million, right? Yeah. Just take your money and just retire to the Dominican at this point. Like, honestly.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, he's been bad this year, but
It's been horrible.
It'll be interesting to see.
I don't know what he's going to do. I would say he probably still signs. I don't know who it's going to be with, but someone will give him a chance. Why not? Like James said, maybe it'll put some butts in the seats. If he goes to Oakland, maybe they'll get 3,000 fans a night instead of 2,500. That would be great. Don't you think, Robbie?
Yeah, no, definitely. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. It's funny. I saw some Yankee fans saying the Yankees should bring him in. It just doesn't make any sense. Like,
it's not worth the roster spot.
No,
It's just not.
no.
Well, hey, speaking of the Yankees, why don't we talk about that other side of baseball in the Big Apple right now? Because, the Mets have been great, but there's one team that's been better, and that's the New York Yankees. I mean, on a 10-game win streak now, really just absolutely dominating. A huge win last night over the stacked Blue Jays as well in Toronto. You know how that crowd is there. I mean, that's a big win for them. They're playing them again right now. And Robbie, why don't we talk about the past 10 game for the Yankees? What are you seeing them do right?
Yeah, so, okay, here's the thing about the New York Yankees I keep telling people. Is it great that we won 10 games in a row? Absolutely. But I don't think that we can get super excited quite yet because, number one, it's early, but number two, this team is really, really streaky. We're going to see them win 10, 12 games in a row right now, and then next month we'll see them lose 5 games in a row. That's just how this baseball team operates on paper. But there's been a lot of things going really well for the Yankees right now. Number one, starting pitching. Their starting pitching has been absolutely incredible. Garrett Cole's looked much better his last few starts. Jordan Montgomery's been great. James Satayo's having a better season last year. Nestor Cortez is pitching like he might start the AL All-Star game this year. It is ridiculous. And then I had something for both of you guys.
Sure.
A trivia question.
Oh.
The Yankees have the second best bullpen ERA in baseball this year.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Their bullpen has carried them this season. Their bullpen ERA is right now it's like, I think, 2.27.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who has the best bullpen ERA in baseball this season?
So far in 2022? Wow.
When I heard this, I could not believe it.
So it's got to be like it's the Pirates.
No.
I know they were really good. They must have started sucking again.
It's not the Pirates.
Who is it?
Is it the Orioles?
No.
It's the Detroit Tigers.
Oh, okay.
Their
Wow.
bullpen ERA is 1.97.
Who's their closer?
Gregory Soto.
Oh, that's
Yeah, he's
right.
still good.
Gregory Soto, yeah.
But the big thing is right now, so for the Yankees, the reason why they've been so successful this year is the pitching has been absolutely great, and then you have the streaky offense at a hot time right now. Those two things in line put together for a really good team. The Yankees have to take the series against Toronto. They have to gain as much momentum as they can against the Blue Jays. They have to get as big of a lead as they can while it's still early in the season because the Red Sox are struggling, the Rays are struggling, and I don't think that's going to sustain. I think the Red Sox are going to heat up. I think the Rays are going to heat up. So while those teams are bad right now, you have to get as many wins as you can, build up a big lead, and continue to perform well. But if the lineup continues to hit the ball well, this team is going to be really filthy and dangerous this year. I don't want to jinx anything, by the way.
Yeah, right now the Yankees they rank first in Major League Baseball in record, obviously 17-6. They have 32 home runs, which is first in the league. Their team ERA is 2.69, first in the American League. They've scored the most runs in the American League with 109, and their F4 for both pitchers and batters is both first in the American League. So right now they're playing great brand of baseball, obviously battling with Toronto, who's 2.5 games back of the division. And who they're playing right now, the Yankees with a big win last night against the Blue Jays to extend that winning streak to 10. But I think, with this Yankees team, they're pitching really well. Cole's looked great his last 2 starts. He's looked like his old self.
It's the weather.
Yeah, you look at Nestor Cortez. Obviously, is he going to start the American League All-Star game? Probably not. But right now he's turning in a really good season. I mean, Judge is Judge, Stanton is Stanton. The big boys are starting to hit. Gleyber with a big clutch hit last night to help them win that ball game in the 10th. And I think, John Sterling's great calls another great call last night.
What is his problem?
Having them lead the way.
Is he still virtual? Is that why?
Anyone could see that on TV.
Oh my!
But I think the biggest thing with them is that they're firing on all cylinders right now. But the division is so tough. Like Robbie said, it's May 2nd. Like, yes, they have the best record in baseball, and they that's something that is a benchmark. You have the best record. Throughout a month during the season, that's great. But the division's tough. I mean, you could look up at the NMA, and Toronto could have the best record in baseball. It's not like they're gonna be able to run away with things because the Boston and Tampa Bay might not be on their heels, but Toronto probably will be. So, but give credit to where it's due. The Yankees have started hot, and they've taken advantage of this hot start. Will the hot start sustain? I'm not entirely sure, but they played a great brand of baseball right now, and they absolutely deserve to have the best record in baseball.
Yeah, and one last point. So I've been telling people that the thing that the Yankees should be trying to do, and I've been telling Andrew this with the Phillies, you got to sweep the bad teams and then take 2 of 3 against the teams know that you're on level with, and then try to take 2 of 3 against the good teams. And what it was good was that the last 3 series the Yankees have had were all against bad teams, and they swept them all. That's what you have to do. Do your job. Sweep the bad teams. And then Toronto's a good team. Try to take 2 of 3 in Toronto, and if they win today, they obviously do that. So that's what the Yankees have been doing well. They've just been going game by game by game, and it's working out really well for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're beating who they need to beat, and that's the first mark of a good team. You beat who you need to beat, and you try to win every series. But against those bad teams, if you keep piling up those wins and sweeping them, I mean, those wins are going to add up really quick. And again, they've gotten off to a really hot start. But I think one thing that's interesting for this Yankees team as we go forward is how much of this hot start is sustainable and how much of it, will fade off as the year goes on, whether the division gets tougher, whether teams pick up on certain tendencies. I think that's something that's interesting to watch, and we can say that about any team who starts hot or starts cold throughout the season. So I think particularly with the rest of the Yankees rotation outside of Cole, will that, ERA hold up the rest of the year? Because that was probably their biggest weakness going into the year was their rotation depth. Will that hold up throughout the rest of the year? We'll see. Will the entire order 1 through 9 continue to hit? Will Gleyber Torres continue to find it? We'll see what happens. But again, they've gotten off to a hot start. They're the best team in baseball, and they're playing a great brand of baseball, a brand that Yankees fans have been looking for the last 5 years. That everything finally seems to be clicking right now.
In the year that it is apparently not the Yankees' year, according to Robbie.
Well, yeah, that. But also another thing about the Yankees is I think it's really interesting that you look at many of the averages on this team, and they're really not that great. And I expect some of these guys to start hitting for average a little bit better. I'm also expecting Joey Gallo to pick it up eventually. I know Gallo's injured right now, but it'll be interesting to see. Even though the offense is clicking right now, there are still guys who we're still waiting to click on, or we're still waiting for them to click. So it'll be interesting to see how they do once all those things happen. But for now, they're beating the teams that they have to beat, and that's something that's allowing them to be really successful this year. And we'll get into this team later on in the show, but and I hate to say this, James, but you look at the Red Sox series against the Orioles, you have to win that series, and I think they lost 2 of 3 against them. So that's an example you have to take advantage.
I sat through a 2-hour rain delay on Sunday just to watch that happen.
Yeah.
No, but we can get to the Red Sox whenever we can get to them. Right now, they are not doing any favors for themselves at all. They're not beating the teams they need to beat. They're not beating any good teams right now. And I mean, look, the problem with them is that there are so many games that you think this is the worst it could get, and then 2 games later it gets worse. Like the game against Tampa where they got no hit through 9, then they scored 3 in the top of the 10th. Should have won that game. No, they blew it in the bottom of the 10th. They blew a 3-run lead in the 9th inning against Toronto last week when Springer hit the game-tying homer, then they got walked off in the 10th. They are the first team since the 2012 Cubs, and shout out to MLB Random Stats on Twitter for this stat, to get walked off by all 4 teams in their division in the same month.
Oh, no.
Yankees on opening day, the Rays during that 9-inning no-hitter, Toronto last week, and then Baltimore Saturday night when Sawamura absolutely launched the ball over Devers, 80 miles over Devers' head at third base. The Red Sox, I think the biggest problem with them is their offense, because if you come into the season and their offense is doing what they're doing, but they're losing games 8-6, they're losing games 9-8, whatever it may be, it's all right, they're not going to win every slugfest. The pitching is the pitching, and that's that. But the pitching has been far from the problem with the Red Sox. The pitching has actually been very, very good. Coming into tonight, entering play tonight, their team ERA is 3.59. It's Michael Wacha has an ERA of 1.6 going into tonight. Garrett Whitlock, who they've used both as a reliever and a starter, has an ERA of 0.54 in 16 and a third innings. Tanner Houck has a 2.41 ERA. Rich Hill has a 3.77 ERA. You can go up and down the rotation. Nate Eovaldi's been Nate Eovaldi. The pitching is not the problem. It is entirely on the offense. Outside of Xander Bogaerts and J.D. Martinez and Rafael Devers, the team is hitting, I think, a combined 180 outside of those 3. I mean, and a big emphasis of that falls on Trevor Story. I know he didn't have a spring training. He had food poisoning in the first week of the season. So he didn't get his legs under him, but it's still, for $140 million, you got to produce. I mean, right now, coming into play today, they've only scored 81 runs. And that's 3.52 runs per game. That's, I think, 8th to last in the major leagues. For a team that's that talented, it's not good. They're hitting 229 as a team. Their on base is 279, and their OPS is just a measly 622 as a team. So they're not hitting the ball well. They're not making an impact, and that has to change because right now, if you look at the projections of the Red Sox pitchers, going throughout the year, they will regress a little bit, sure, but not by that much. If this offense hits like they're capable of, we're talking about a different story. But they have not played well so far up to their standards, and they need to turn it around fast starting tonight. Hopefully playing at home helps them because out of the 23 games they've played this year, 16 have been on the road.
Well, yeah, I mean that's 100% true. A lot of that has to fall, like you said, on Trevor Story. I mean that signing that really was supposed to push this team over the edge, and like you said, there's things to be said. He didn't have a spring training. He was dealing with that food poisoning, but at some point you got to hope that he becomes Trevor Story again.
Absolutely.
To really just
and I
the
think
rest
he
of the
will.
lineup.
I'm not trying to say that this is going to last all season. I've been defending him this entire time, and I know he's had a little bit of trouble defensively at second base. He's switching to a new position. I do think he'll be fine, but it's like the rest of the order has to pick it up. Jackie Bradley Jr. is hitting 160. Bobby Dahlbeck is hitting 158. Christian Arroyo is hitting 180. I mean, these are guys who Christian Vasquez is hitting 217. These are guys who start every day or essentially every day that aren't picking it up. And again, outside of Bogarts, Devers, and Martinez, the team is hitting under 200. I mean, I know Alex Verdugo's gotten unlucky, sure, but Kike Hernandez is still hitting under 200. I mean, these are guys that have to step it up, and if they don't, then it could be curtains fast. And I'm not worried about the games back. Like, yes, they're 8 games back. I didn't come into the season thinking they were going to win the division. I more care about the brand of baseball that you play early in the season, and the record will take care of itself. But obviously, they're not playing good brand of baseball. So the big thing for them is they got to hit the ball. I mean, and the stats will speak to that they're not hitting the ball right now. And once they do, things will change. But until they do that, things are going to stay the same because the pitching has not been a problem. We can blame the bullpen for that Toronto loss last week, but it's like the bullpen, in all honesty, has had like 2 bad outings all year. Really, I mean, I think Rich Hill had 1 bad outing on Marathon Monday, like the day after his dad died, and that was really it. I mean, like the pitching has been great all year. It's the offense that hasn't produced. So.
Yeah, and they're not the only Sox that are struggling as well.
No.
I mean, why don't we go to the AL Central and talk a little about the Chicago White Sox?
This is more surprising.
This is very surprising. I mean, mostly because this is just such a young, talented team that everyone was like, this is it. They're going to run away with the division. And to be fair, it's only May 3rd, so anything can still happen. They are 9-13 though, and guys, I don't think at this point anyone thought that they were going to be 9-13. Now, Robbie, let me ask you. I mean, this is a team that's dealt with a lot of injuries, of course.
Yeah.
And this is a big reason why they've been struggling so far. But at the same time, it's not like they've lost everyone, and the guys that have remained have just not gotten it going.
No, absolutely. I think that it's easy to look at injuries as a reason as to why the White Sox have really struggled. The big thing for the White Sox, though, is nothing's really clicking for them right now. The starting rotation ERA, I don't think it's that great. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but they're throwing out Vince Velasquez. Dallas Keuchel's been really bad this season. I know we spoke about it a little bit last week, but the back end of the rotation is just really bad right now. The bullpen's been all right this year. The lineup hasn't been super great and consistent. So the big thing for the White Sox is I think once they get everybody healthy, I think that they should be better, but them not being in first place, I don't think that should be a testimony as to how bad they are because, yes, they have been struggling, but also you just look at the rest of the division in general. I've been very impressed with how the Minnesota Twins have been. Carlos Correa is starting to heat up. Gio Urshela has been doing a little bit better recently.
Buxton.
Byron Buxton, he's obviously back and playing like an MVP again. So I think that we should spend more time giving credit to the Twins, to the Guardians, rather than trashing the White Sox, because I feel like they have so many injuries, and I think that's why it's a little bit hard to just completely judge how they're doing overall with their season. So I think that's something I think we need to look at.
Well, and I think another thing, you can apply everything I just said about the Red Sox to the White Sox because offensively they rank worse than every category than the Red Sox. But, you think about the big boys like Abreu, you think about, I know Moncada's been struggling with injuries. You think about A.J. Pollock, he was out he missed a little bit of time, and you think about Tim Anderson in the field, he hasn't been, offensively he's still fine, but in the field he hasn't been himself. I think he's made 7 errors this year. Yasmani Grandal is really struggling, hitting 154. Gavin Sheets is only hitting 222. Engel is hitting 205.
Vaughn has been good, though.
Yeah,
we'll give him that.
Yes, Andrew Vaughn, if he can be the guy who he was in college, that's huge for them. But, you look up and down that team is that they are a good team that's underperforming, but you think about both the Red Sox and the White Sox are struggling, you would expect both of them to turn it around soon, which I think they both will. I don't think that either of us are writing them off 25 games in, but they both have to play well soon. And, funny enough, they play each other at Fenway this weekend for a 3-game series, so I think we'll figure out which one is in really bad trouble after this weekend if one of them sweeps or, wins the series in convincing fashion.
Yeah, seriously.
One quick point, though.
Sure.
If you're a fan of the White Sox or the Red Sox, I don't think you need to panic quite yet. I think that if they continue performing this way in like June or July, I think then it's reasonable. But it's too early right now to panic if you're a Red Sox fan or a White Sox fan. I think both of these offenses are too talented. I think both of them are going to pick it up eventually. I know I said that the Red Sox were going to finish in 4th place before the season started. I stand by it. I think that they're I don't think they're better than Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay also hasn't been that great compared to years past. So who knows? Things are definitely bound to change for both those teams, I think.
Now, you said you don't think that you have to panic if you're a fan of the Red Sox or White Sox. Robbie, do you have any teams that you should be panicking about right now if you're a fan of them?
I see. Here's the thing. I think it's too early to panic for most teams.
The season is over for a couple teams.
Well, the season is over.
Yeah.
If you're Washington,
Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Oh my.
But also, I don't know. Like,
wait, no, hold on. Can we just talk about the Reds for a second?
The Reds.
Because
we want to talk about the Reds.
I just want to say real quick that I saw a fantastic clip today of before opening day when the president of the Reds said, "I really believe in what we're putting together here in Cincinnati. Just wait till opening day. You guys are going to see. Have a little faith in what we're doing." Yeah.
Dude, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I saw a clip the other day that just sums up the Red season in general. Did you know that on 3 straight pitches, they dropped 3 pop-ups in a row? 3 straight pitches.
3 straight pitches.
There is nothing good going on with the Reds, and that's sad because they are such a historic baseball town.
Yeah.
It's where the game of baseball was, where the first major league team was. It's essentially, where this game took its roots in America. I mean, obviously, you have Cooperstown, but in terms of professional baseball, I mean, it was the Cincinnati Red Stockings, and they have the parade before opening day. I mean, Jonathan India, the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, Joey Votto, one of this generation's best hitters. This team has nothing going for them.
No.
They have nothing, and it's really sad for the fan base because those fans care. One of the fans put a bag on his head last week, and then he wore a shirt that said "Sell the team," and he was asked to take it off in the stadium. I mean, they have nothing going for them. It's really unfortunate. I think they're riding a 7-game losing streak right now. They had a 10-game losing streak earlier in the season. I mean, 22 games in to know your season is over. It's going to be tough to show up to the ballpark for the next 130, 125 games for these fans and these players, but. When Luis Castillo gets healthy, they'll have a nice trade chip to hopefully get some prospects back. If Joey Votto is traded or not, they can probably get some lower level guys. Obviously Joey is not off to a good start at all, not a typical Votto start, but we'll see what happens with them. In terms of who they trade, but it's going to be a long summer in Cincinnati.
Wait, so you're saying you don't think the Reds can find their way out of a 3-19 hole to start their season?
There is no way the Reds sniff 65 wins.
I mean, 65. Wow.
Well, that was their Vegas over.
Are they going to win 60?
No,
they're going to win what, like in the 50s?
Pittsburgh's 9-13. I don't think people expected that. The division's not terrible, and all these teams will beat up on the Reds.
Yeah, they're that bad.
The thing is, though, like so far, like our expectations have kind of met what we thought would happen.
I did not think they'd be this bad.
Well, I mean, we knew that the Reds were going to be bad, though. That's the main point I'm making. But you look at it, we expected the Yankees to be pretty good. We expected the Blue Jays to be pretty good. There are some surprises, like with the Red Sox, the White Sox. I before the show we were talking about this a little bit, like. We thought that the Dodgers would be a little bit better than they are right now, but I really don't think that any teams like those guys have to panic or anything like that.
Detroit is 7-14. I mean, I don't think anybody thought they were going to win the division, but I thought they'd be better than this.
Yeah, I did too.
I would say that if any fan base was going to panic, I think Detroit might be up there, but I don't know.
Hey, at least they got Miggy's 3,000th. That'll make the year for them. But I think a lot of us thought that they were a year away from being a competitive team anyway.
Well, I think another team that you focus on, and not team, because I think we all thought Texas didn't have the pitching.
That's what I was
a good one.
And so I'm not concerned with them because they don't have the pitching. But Marcus Semien, he's hitting 150 on the year.
No, he's not. He's hitting like something.
Semien?
No.
He's hitting 150.
Is he above 1 again?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Semien, right now,
he's been bad, man.
Yeah, no. And the thing is, they gave him what, $175 million.
They gave
right
him
now,
a lot of money.
He is right now. He's hitting 149 with a 224 OBP. His OPS is 431, and he has his WAR is negative .3. Yeah, it's not good. Corey Seager is holding up his end of the bargain.
Garver's been really bad as well.
Yeah. He's hit a few bombs, but besides that, he hasn't done anything. Corey Seager's holding up his end of the bargain. Besides that, Marcus Semien has not turned into what they thought at all. And, maybe it's just a bad first month in a new place. Maybe it's these dead baseballs. Maybe Toronto, maybe there was just something special about Toronto that, in that order, he got a lot of pitches to hit that now teams are going to focus on him more, and they know how to scout him. I don't know. He played in that division in a while in Oakland, and he only had a couple good years. I mean, the rest of the time there, it was a lot of up and down performances from Semien. So that's something to watch. I mean, we'll see what happens. Again, we're 1 month into this thing. He could very easily turn it around this year. The contract's not bad, but it's something to keep an eye on.
It's something to keep an eye on because he's one of the guys that you're trusting to be in the middle of the infield. And not only that, be in the middle of this team for this next generation of Rangers, playoff teams.
I will say this. I think that, going back to the original question, though,
sure.
I don't think that there are any teams we need to panic about. I think more so that there are some players that we might want to start panicking
Sure, you want
about?
to talk about players? Yeah, you have one?
Well, Semion's also one. Semyon was one of the guys I was thinking of.
Yeah, sorry.
But, no, you're good. I totally also look at, some other guys. Like, I hate to bring this guy up, Andrew, but Kyle Schwarber hasn't really been that great overall with the Phillies, right?
He just hit like 5 home runs in 4 games.
But, like, what? No, before those games, he was pretty bad, wasn't he?
I'll step in here.
I'm not going to comment on that.
I understand what both you were saying.
His average was pretty bad.
His average.
But you want to look at, hold on, James. You want to look at his average through April in his entire career. It's almost never above 200.
I was just gonna say,
he's like the slowest starter of all time.
All I was going to say was last year he got off to an incredibly slow start, and then he turned it on at the end of May, like Memorial Day weekend,
and didn't
then
turn
June.
it off.
Yeah, and he was Barry
I'm not
Bonds.
concerned at all about Kyle Schwarber.
No, I mean, we'll have to wait.
I see what you're saying, Robbie. He's off to a slow start. He's hitting 181, but he had 2 big bombs off Scherzer this weekend. He has 7 home runs. That's tied with the entire Red Sox team. I think the Red Sox could use Kyle Schwarber right now at the top of the order. But look, Kyle Schwarber is a historically slow starter, like Andrew said. His average is low right now, but once the weather gets warmer, he'll heat it up and be just fine. He's got 7 bombs already. The average will come. He had a career year in terms of OPS last year, so if he can hover, last year was at, I think his OPS plus was 148, his career OPS plus is 130.
Yeah.
If he can hover around 135, 140 all year, he'll be just fine.
Well, and here's the other things with Kyle Schwarber, right? To be fair, he hit 260 last year. That's not who he is. He's probably not going to do that
He'll
again.
probably hit 230.
He'll probably hit 230, 240. But the thing is, the way that he plays baseball, he is a true outcome guy, but he's a really good true outcome guy.
He'll get on base a lot.
He's not an Adam Dunn type guy, right? He's better than that. He's not going to hit as many home runs, probably. He even could probably. He has that power. But he's going to walk a lot more. He's still going to strike out, right? And it's just the way he plays the game is the reason why he's batting 200 right now. You watch every single one of his at-bats. I've watched every single one of his at-bats, right? Like, the way that he stands up there, and James, I'm sure, can attest to this for the month and a half that he watched him, he grinds at-bats every single time. And that's something that doesn't show up in the stat line. If you make him throw 9 pitches and then you strike out, I'm not as mad, right? Because Kyle Schwarber's not up there swinging at crap.
The Red Sox miss Schwarber's disciplined approach because right now, the problem with the Red Sox offense is that they're undisciplined and their chase rate is through the roof. He goes up there at the top of the order, grinds at bat, sees a lot of pitches. Whether he gets out, whether he walks, the majority of the time he walks or gets a hit. But, whatever happens, he will set the tone for the rest of the order, and hitting is contagious, and guess what? Approaches are also contagious.
Agree 100%. Sorry to roast you there, Robbie, but
how did you roast me there exactly?
I didn't mean to go back on your take there. He was very slow for about a week and a half. Yeah.
The point that I'm making is, okay, he's hitting 200 right now. He was hitting like $150 for the longest time.
I don't care about batting average at all. I really don't.
Okay, his on base percentage is .318 right now. And that's like the highest it's been all season. And you're a big on-base percentage guy.
That's like I said, though. It's the grinding at bats. Like, it comes with time. He's the slowest starter in, baseball.
You're the guy that said that Joey Gallo sucks, okay?
When did I say that?
Is Joey Gallo good?
Bro, you were saying the same thing a week ago when he didn't have a single RBI.
Yeah, but I was criticizing Kyle Schwarber and Joey Gallo about the same thing.
That was not even close to the starts for the season.
Yeah, their on-base percentages, both on-base percentages are pretty bad right now, but the point that I'm making is that Joey Gallo puts up a lot of good at-bats. He just strikes out most of the time.
Yeah, the guy also didn't have a single RBI. Kyle Schwarber had 7 home runs.
No, but you're talking about the at-bats and stuff.
Yeah, I am.
Joey Gallo puts up solid at-bats just like Kyle Schwarber.
And did nothing else for 2 weeks.
That's what Kyle Schwarber did for the first 2 weeks.
That's just not true.
He was hitting 118 for the first 2 weeks.
Still hitting home runs, and he was still walking. I'm not having this conversation with you. We're not doing this. Because that's just, I don't agree with that take. What do you want him to do? You want him to hit 400 in the first month? That's not who Kyle Schwarber is. He's never going to hit 260 again, and that's not what they're paying him $80 million to do. They're paying $80 million to hit 40 home runs at Citizens Bank Park. And he's well on his way to do it. He has the 4th most home runs of anyone in baseball.
You don't know why he's off to a slow start? Because of the weather.
It's all because of the weather. Once the weather gets fine, guys, once the weather is good again, Kyle Schwarber's going to hit 55 home runs in June. Joey Gallo might hit 60 in a week. The weather is the key here, guys. The weather, once it gets good, everything's going to be solved, according to Robbie.
Your sarcasm is not needed for the final episode of Nation's Pastime.
I think it's needed more than ever, to be fair.
This is the last episode of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital, and this is the kind of tone that Andrew comes in. The man just chose fire today, I swear.
I tried my best so hard to talk about the Mets and the Yankees in a positive light, and you're out here attacking my left fielder.
I'm attacking Kyle Schwarber by saying he's off to a bit of a slow start. Oh, yeah, he's a disaster. He sucks. It's a terrible... No, I didn't say any of that. I just said he's off to a bit of a slow start.
I just think you were... To be serious, I do think you were just misunderstanding what he's being paid to do. He's not being paid to hit... honestly, that much above 200.
I think he's getting paid to hit home runs and get on base, and
he's doing that.
at a 318 rate, I mean...
Bro, he has the 4th most home runs of anyone in baseball. He's doing
No,
what
I
he's
said
being
home
paid
runs
to do.
and get on base.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I don't know what to tell you then. I'm sorry that he's not getting on base at a 500 Barry Bonds clip.
He doesn't get on base like Aaron Hicks does.
He doesn't get on base like Aaron Hicks does. Aaron Hicks is probably a better player than Kyle Schwarber. I don't think that's too hot of a take to make. Well, you know what? We got about 30 minutes here, 25 minutes. We'll probably end around 8:10, 8:15. By the way, forgot to mention it throughout the show, of course, but if anyone does want to call in for our last show here, we really would love to have you. If you have a memory of the show, if you have something just baseball related you want to talk about, 202-319-5106. Apologize for not saying that earlier. Got a little bit caught up here in the news, but yeah, once again, that number 202-319-5106.
I've got a guy who's back.
A guy who's back. Who's back, James?
Mike Trout's back.
Mike Trout is back.
Mike Trout's back. Everyone talking about Shohei Ohtani, Vlad Guerrero, all that sort of stuff. I think Mike Trout is reminding everyone why he's still the best player in baseball and arguably the face of baseball.
Not according to MLB Network.
Already with a 1.8 B WAR. He's got 6 bombs. He's hitting 324. He's got 11 RBIs. He's got an 1179 OPS. Is Trout the front runner for AL MVP yet again?
Ooh,
At this point, you got to say yes.
He might be.
Probably.
And why don't we just talk about not only Trout but the Angels? Are they finally putting it together?
I hope for Trout and Ohtani's sake.
Me
I
too,
hope.
man.
They're
Honestly.
15-9, 2.5 games up of Houston in first place in the AL West. And again, we've seen the Angels get off to some hot starts and fade quickly, but the pitching is there. I mean, Reed Detmers, he was the number 10 overall pick in 2020. He's turned in a solid rookie campaign so far. Noah Syndergaard is back. He only has 12 strikeouts. The velo is down, but he's got a 2.12 ERA and he's got a 2.81 FIP. So obviously, that's not that far off.
It looks like he kind of changed the way he's pitching.
Well,
it's like he knows that he's losing velocity.
And
he's adapting.
The wipeout slider isn't, slider's there, but it's not as wipeout as it used to be. He's not hitting 97, 98 with the fastball anymore. He's 93, 94 with the fastball. He's a different pitcher, but he's effective.
There is somebody on the Angels I really want to give a lot of love to, and it's somebody who I've been really high on for years.
Yeah.
Patrick Sandoval.
I've
been saying he's Robbie Ray 2.0.
Yeah.
That man is filthy. Wipeout slider, a lot of strikeouts, great ERA overall. He's been great.
The bullpen's been pretty good.
The bullpen's been really good as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Raciel Iglesias. Tepera was off to a bit of a slow start, I believe, but he's gotten better. Aaron Loop has been solid this year. The bullpen's been perfectly fine for the Angels. I think that this is something that they really have a lot to be excited about.
Absolutely, I would have to agree with you, and we do have a caller here in the studio, so why don't we go ahead and take that here on the last episode of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. Hello, caller, you're on air. Who are we talking to tonight?
Hey, this is Travis.
Travis, how's it going, man? It wouldn't be a last show without you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, for sure, man. I didn't know it was going to be y'all's last one, and I wanted to call and just, you guys have done a great job with this since you started it, and I just, you guys should definitely do a podcast together or something once you're all done here and keep the baseball talk going at least. It doesn't have to die here.
Hey, I appreciate it, Travis. I mean, we did think about that. It's a lot of work to make the podcast work, but we appreciate the feedback. We'll definitely consider it.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, if you ever do it, I'll be your first guest.
Thank you, man. Travis. Hey, thank you, Travis. Appreciate it.
We know it. Number one fan. Thank you very much, Travis. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. But I was just figuring for I'd pose a question for the last episode, but obviously being so few games into the season, you can't read too much. But I was just, out of the teams who had high expectations that have struggled out of the gate, and say like the Braves, the Red Sox, any other teams you can think of, like the White Sox, another one, are there any of those teams that you're seriously concerned about, or do you think it's too soon to kind of change any mindset you had before the season?
Yeah, I mean, personally, of the ones that you've mentioned and of the ones that had high expectations, I really am not that high on the Braves. I don't think they're going to be as good this year. Now, I think there's a good chance they could end up in the playoffs because they have a talented roster, but they haven't looked very good this year at all. You have some injury concerns there as well. The pitching hasn't been fantastic, and they actually have. It's not like they've been losing to fantastic teams either, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, they just lost to the Mets today, which is respectful, but
of
overall,
course, but before
that, they were struggling.
You want to take a look at something here. 2 of the 3 wins that the Reds have had this year were against the Braves. They have struggled this year. They really have. And they're still a talented team, don't get me wrong, but I would say of the ones you mentioned, the Red Sox will pick it up. The White Sox will pick it up. They're too talented. And the Braves are talented too, but I don't think this is their year. I think they had their year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
Nationals have gotten their I was just saying real quick, the Nationals have gotten their only series win of the season against the Braves. Needed to point that out, too.
That's a good point, Travis. I didn't even think of that.
I think to answer your question, I think the one team that's most concerning, and not saying they won't turn it around, but I think the team that's most concerning is the White Sox because they've really done nothing well. They haven't hit well. They rank toward the bottom of baseball in almost every offensive category, and they haven't pitched well. They rank toward the bottom of baseball in almost every pitching statistic. So I think if you look at overall team play, the Red Sox and Braves have done some things well. The Red Sox have pitched really well, and they have a few guys that are hitting well. Atlanta, Olsen and Albies are carrying that offense. Acuna will come back. When he returns to form, obviously he just returned, but when he gets back to being himself, he's going to lead that team. But the White Sox haven't done anything well. Nobody's pitching well. Nobody's hitting well. So if I were concerned about one team right now the most, it would definitely be Chicago.
Also, the guys on the White Sox that are injured, they're going to be out for quite some time. So I think that's something else. Yeah, that's something else that we have to take into consideration. So the White Sox could be in serious trouble this year for sure.
Here, another question. So if you're looking at that, we're talking about injuries, guys who are going to be out for a while. Like we said, it's too early to read into who's going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers looking forward. But are there any big names you're really looking at this year to get moved at the deadline?
Individual
probably going to suck. I think this guy's going to get traded. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
A quick point though. So with the trades, a team that we know will sell is the Pittsburgh Pirates,
right.
And the assets that they have in their bullpen are going to be extremely valuable.
Exactly.
The Pirates have a filthy bullpen. Look out for the Pirates to trade some of the guys in the bullpen. And then, like we said earlier in the show, the Reds trading Luis Castillo and maybe Joey Votto for me. I think that's who I'm looking out for.
I think one guy who I'm looking out for is Josh Bell. If the Nationals keep playing like this,
he's been good.
Josh Bell has had a phenomenal bounce back season this year, and he could do wonders for a contender. He can play first base. He's dabbled with the outfield and of course with the universal DH. All you need him to do is hit. You can really play him anywhere if you're really that desperate for a bat.
Yeah, I think
the Nationals would look at trading Nelson Cruz as well.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole reason they signed him was to trade him at the deadline for some prospects.
Yeah, no, Travis, I 100% agree with you. When they signed him, I said, well, that's cool. He'll spend 3 months there, and then he'll be on a contender. Yeah. I would agree with you. I think Cruz, I think Bell, I think any of the bullpen guys that have any sort of value from the... Look, the Nationals, you're going to be seeing a bunch of AAA players there come August, come September, because this isn't their year and they knew it's not their year. Their goal is to build that farm system as much as possible this year, sell off anything of value not named Juan Soto, and then hopefully go for it in 23 or 24.
I've got one more guy, Andrew Benintendi. This is his last year club control. He's hitting .365 right now. I know his BABIP is extremely high, but if he keeps hitting like this, and the Royals keep, they keep staying in the cellar, I don't see why they wouldn't trade him.
That's another good name. Benintendi, another one, Travis. I definitely look out for him.
Gotcha. And I was just thinking stuff. I'll ask one more question. I'll get off of here because I don't want to take up too much time.
No problem, Travis.
You guys might already touched on it, but man, how crazy is it? Trevor, we don't need to get in the weeds of what he did and everything, but Trevor Bauer's suspension, I think it's going to go through courts and lawsuits and all kinds of things. Do you think that suspension's going to get pulled up? Because that's just that's an unprecedented suspension. And I'm no Trevor Bauer fan, and I don't think he's a good human by any means. But Marcell Ozuna got 20 games, and Trevor Bauer got 2 years. I don't get it. And I'm like I said, I'm not defending Bauer's actions at all. It's just confusing to me how they can. What's the difference in Ozuna's situation and Bauer's situation?
I think for this one, honestly, we're just going to have to let the court system play it out. Both sides have their cases, and obviously both sides have made their cases, and I think at this point, it's just up to the third-party arbitrator. Obviously, Major League Baseball has done their due diligence on Bauer, and there's a reason why they suspended him 2 years, so I think we're just going to have to wait for that third-party arbitrator to really, hash out the details from both sides and see what's going on from there.
Yeah, that's about it with Bauer. It's a ridiculous suspension, and again, not defending anything about him, but we just gotta see what the courts say. That's essentially what it comes down to with him, and don't know if he'll be pitching another Major League Baseball game.
Yeah, agreed. And thank you very much, Travis, for your questions. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Travis, as always. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Love the show, guys. Y'all have done great, and appreciate y'all.
Appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you, Travis. We appreciate you. Have a great night.
I have a guy, by the way, who is back.
And who's the guy that's back? We have another call here. We'll take him real quick. But who is it, Robbie?
Ronald Acuna. Come back to the Braves.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
That is a
That's
big
one
one.
to look
If he
out for.
returns to form, like James said, we're going to go ahead and, take another caller here. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who are we talking to?
What did you say?
Hello. All right, looks like we might have lost a caller there. Some little bit of feedback, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that can't be understated. The fact that, like James said, if Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back and he is the player that we all know he can be, that could be the difference for the Braves. And it looks like we have another caller here, so why don't we take that one? Hello, caller. You're on the air. Who are we talking to?
Oh, how we doing, Higgy? It's Greg.
What's up, Greg?
Hey, Greg. How are you?
We got David here. We got Alex, Joey. We're at halftime PBI. It's 5-3 right now. We're losing, but it's going to be a big second half.
All right, let's go, boys. Win the game.
I'm just wondering, so Cooper Hummel's been in a bit of a slump. Do you think he's going to be turning it around for the rest of the year?
Who?
Who was it?
Cooper Hummel.
Might be the different sport there. Not exactly sure who that is. Not someone in Major League Baseball. But yeah, thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you later. Thank you. So as we were talking, right?
So,
Ronald Acuna, big comeback. You have someone else?
No, Cooper Hummel is a Major League. He is a baseball player for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I don't think I've ever heard of Cooper Hummel.
Yeah, he started out the season performing really well, but he definitely has slowed down a bit.
Oh
but
my gosh. Is he a pitcher?
No, he's a player for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
All right,
He was the guy that Diamondback fans were really excited about. So,
gee, well, is that actually true?
No, it is true. He started off really hot.
But did they have any reason to be excited about him, or is this a rando who was hot for a week?
I mean, he was a prospect coming up.
Okay.
I mean, he could have been Jan Hervis Solarte 2.0.
Could have been. He could have been Jan Hervis Solarte 2.0. That's fair. Yeah. Well, I apologize there, Cooper Hummel. Yeah, it's very unfortunate that he's struggling to start the season, and my heart and my deepest condolences go out to you, caller. So I apologize, and hopefully Cooper Hummel picks it up, man. Hopefully he does. So it's about 7:57 here. We got about 10 to 15 minutes left in the history of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. Thank you all so much for joining us. Honestly, so any final baseball related stuff that we want to go on here before we have a little bit of a special segment here, guys? Anything regarding the Angels, regarding anyone else?
Before we go off, there's one thing I want all of you audience members to remember about me before we talk about baseball stuff. I love the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates are going to win the World Series this year. The Pittsburgh Pirates are going to win the World Series this year.
It has been an inside joke probably for at least 3 years now, the fact that anytime the Yankees are bad, Robbie becomes the biggest Pirates fan in the world. And
maybe, James should become a Pirates fan right now.
No.
Maybe James should become a Reds fan. I mean, that's half the team right there. I mean, actually, it's more than half. You have the S as well.
I know.
You got to consider it, man. They're only 3-19. They can dig their way out of it. I believe in them. Honestly, I do. But, yeah, Pirates, 2022 World Series champions. I don't think it's a stretch to say.
No, it's not a stretch at all.
Well, you know what? Personally, I want to take a moment here to thank Robbie, right? Because I asked if he had any serious baseball comments to make before we went on and closed out the show here with a special segment, and he gave a super serious answer. He gave one that was really based in facts and logic about the Pirates winning the World Series. So, Robbie, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Look, their bullpen is filthy.
Okay, their bullpen is good this year.
Yeah. No, but we were talking about it earlier. Look out for the Pirates to be a potential seller at the deadline. We got that question earlier. They're going to trade some of their bullpen pieces, and it'll be interesting to see how they rebuild their team. I really think that a team like the Pirates or even the Baltimore Orioles could be pretty good in 2 or 3 years. Look out for them.
I think I'd have to agree with you. We'll have to see. I mean, the Pirates have some pieces, and they could get some more back if they make the right trades this time, and don't pull in Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow. They'll be fine. So, James, anything else baseball related? Otherwise, we have some special stuff here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing going forward is that will either the Red Sox, the White Sox start hitting and turn it around, and I think how long will the Marlins keep this up? They're 12-10. They're Paulo Lopez is the lowest ERA in the National League. They're pitching really well. They're hitting the ball well. How long will they keep this up for and be a pest in the National League East?
And I said this before the show, right? What would have happened if Derek Jeter stayed and they actually did sign Nicholas Castellanos like they wanted to? That team would be even better right now. I mean, that team is legitimately just missing a few really big bats. Him in the middle of that order right now, I would legitimately be saying the Marlins could actually make the playoffs. I don't think this is going to be sustained. They have great pitching. They will be annoying all year. They might win 78, 79 games even. But I think they're like James said before the show, actually, a center fielder, big bat, whatever you want to say, and a closer away from actually doing anything major there.
Yeah, no, their three best pitchers in Alcantara, Pablo Lopez, and Trevor Rogers are all filthy. They have pieces in the bullpen, too, which are really promising. So, yeah, the Marlins are definitely a team to keep an eye out for. Also, Jorge Soler has just been going off for them, like in absolute nukes, which is great for them. So, the Marlins are a really exciting team. I do think that they could finish second place in the NL East. I think that they will, actually, potentially.
Second place.
In the NL East. They could.
Over the Braves and Phillies if the Mets hold out?
Hey, bigger things have happened.
They could. Anything could happen. The Reds could win the division, too, at this point. I mean,
this is actually a realistic option, though.
Stop
I mean, hey, don't write off
the
Marlins. Don't write off the Marlins.
James, are the Marlins finishing in second place?
They could.
No, I don't think
Come on.
No, they could. It's possible.
Right, anything is possible.
That's what I said. Anything's possible. The Reds could win the division, of course. If we're going to play that game, I mean... Well, that's great. I'm so glad that we got to close out this conversation.
I want to end my last baseball take with the Rafael Devers bomb to dead center.
Did he just hit one?
He did.
Good for him.
Off Syndergaard.
Off Syndergaard.
Maybe. Hey, maybe that's what the Red Sox need to get going. Maybe they need something. Yeah. Well, so that's a great segue, right? And we're coming in here to our last 10 to 15 minutes of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. That's a great time to just acknowledge one of the biggest things about this show, right? So one of the biggest things that I think has made this show, and we're going to be a little silly here before we get serious to end it out, but it's been the certain takes of one of our hosts. Robbie Cruz, over the past 3 to 4 years, has delivered some of the most fantastic baseball takes that I have ever heard.
Like saying that the Christian Yelich deal wasn't going to work out great.
Hold on.
Or saying that the Red Sox were going to be a fourth-place team this year.
Now,
those?
I said...
That was last year.
I said
that this year, too.
I said fantastic takes. It can go either way, right? They're fantastic in the aspect that they are really good, like the Christian Yelich take, and some other ones that maybe weren't so good. And to celebrate some of those takes, I found two different ones in the deep archives of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital history, which, by the way, if you want to listen to any of these past episodes, literally every single one we've ever done is on our YouTube channel. If you just search the name on YouTube, you'll find the entire series if you want to go back and listen to it. I mean, if you really want to do that, you can. You can find even more hot takes. But I went back. I found two in particular that I really just want to focus on right now. Robbie, this first one comes from the spring of 2019. The Nationals were not off to a great start, and you had a certain comment to make about one of their outfielders. Why don't we go ahead and roll that clip?
A lot of these hitters on the Nationals to me are just average hitters. They're nobody of them. None of them are going to stand out. None of them are going to say, "Wow, we got to be careful, this guy. We got to pitch around him." I expected more out of Juan Soto. I thought he was going to develop into a star this year. I thought he was going to have a great...
He's had an okay start.
But he's still hitting like below 250, so I'm not that high on him.
I wish I was on the show at this point, so I could have defended him. So I could have defended him to both of you, because that is terrible.
I am not that high on Juan Soto.
Soto was hitting 240, like 230 at that time. To be fair, okay.
But that's not what you said. You said he was an average hitter, and that you weren't that high on him.
You know what? It was a bit of a miscalculation.
Oh, okay? it was a bit of a miscalculation.
I think the big thing with me back then was I stuttered a lot more than I do now, and I feel like my voice might have been a little more high-pitched.
I don't think that has anything to do with what we're talking about.
We're not going to talk about Juan Soto. Just roll out the next one, man.
Roll out the next one. Now here's the thing. This last one here, this was truly a fantastic take, and this comes to us in the spring of 2021, about a year ago. And I know James in particular is a really, really big fan of this one. And this one has to do with the division standings and how they would play out in 2021. Why don't we go ahead and... No, before you say anything, why don't we go ahead and roll that clip?
Fourth place in the American League East, the one and the only Baltimore Orioles. Trey Mancini's back. They got they got a few pieces. They got Felix Hernandez and Matt Harvey on their team. I don't think that they're going to be really good, but hey, they actually have prime names. And finishing in last place is James Higgins' Boston Red Sox. They are going to be really bad this year. Now, I want to pick the Red Sox for my team.
Please explain to us. I think James is here. He's wondering. He wants to know.
Yeah, please explain that one. You're going to have to do a lot of explaining.
Because, number one, The Red Sox do not have a pitching core. I don't believe in that pitching. I believe in the Orioles pitching more than the Red Sox pitching.
Really? No. I actually want to hear you talk about that because you believe in Matt Harvey, who has like a 5 ERA in spring over a healthy Eduardo Rodriguez over Chris Sale, who's going to be back in June, so he won't wear out in August and September.
I'm not buying in on the Boston Red Sox. I'm not buying in on Chris Sale. I'm not buying in on Eduardo Rodriguez. Yes, I will give you. Nathan Eovaldi, I think he's going to be a problem this season. But most importantly, I look at the Orioles overall. I think that they have a better team if you look at it. Now, John Means, I think, is underrated. Jorge Lopez, I think he could be okay. In that bullpen, Tanner Scott, Cesar Valdez, Dylan Tate. I mean, these guys are Paul Fry. These guys are all pretty solid. And I don't think that the Red Sox are really going to try to win that many games this year. I know their lineup's pretty good, but hey, the Baltimore Orioles lineup is just as good.
Oh, that last part. That's terrible.
The Baltimore Orioles lineup is just as good.
And just for reference, the Red Sox won 92 games, won the first wild card, beat the Yankees in the wild card game. The Rays in the LDS made it to Game 6 of the ALCS, while Baltimore, I think, won 63 games.
I was going to say, Robbie, how did the Orioles do that?
I think they were the worst team in baseball that year. And also, Felix Hernandez never pitched a game for the Baltimore Orioles.
For them.
But you know what? I go back to that day, and I believe that I had reason to believe that, okay? The Red Sox, I had a lot of questions about, and I still do to this day. I have questions about their lineup at times. I have questions about the bullpen down the road, the starting pitching depth. But you know what? The one thing I was going to say before we played that disaster of a clip, I thought...
It was you. It was your disaster.
I know it was my disaster.
Nobody to blame but yourself, honestly.
I will say this, okay? I thought that you were going to play my Luke Voit tape.
Okay, so that's one I wanted to mention. I could not find this one for the life of me, but yes, I did look for that one, and that was Robbie predicting in 2019 that Luke Voit would win the MVP, hands down.
I think I have good reason for believing that. I mean, Luke Voit was coming off a season where he hit .322. He was just on a massive hot tear. He was doing really well for the Yankees, and I was like, you know what? We have our future first baseman. He's at Yankee Stadium. Opening day, what does he do? He hits a home run and goes like 3 for 4 against the Red Sox, and I was like, this guy is going to win MVP. Book it. And then the year after I predicted that, though, he finished second place. So,
he did.
Even though I've had some bad takes, I've also had some really good ones.
To be fair, that's another reason why I didn't look for that one harder, is because he did win an MVP after that. But like Robbie,
in my heart, he won MVP.
Robbie, in 2021. Come on, man.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Orioles, they have Felix Hernandez.
Oh,
they
Felix
have Matt
Hernandez.
Harvey. They're a better overall lineup than the Boston Red Sox.
DJ Stewart was in that lineup.
Here's what I want to know, actually, though. I know some of that had to be trolling, but did you believe any of that?
I don't remember, honestly. I mean, I think at that time I was like, I just wanted the Red Sox to be really bad because they had just won a World Series recently.
They were awful in 20.
Well, they were awful in 2020. I know I saw they were bad in the pandemic year, but also they were just coming off a World Series win 2018. So I was egging for them to stink it up and
trying to speak it into an existence.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were off to a bit of a slow start that year, maybe. So I was
they got off to a good start.
They got off to a 9-3. They got off to a 9-3 start last year.
Well, there was one year they were off to a really bad start, and I remember I was all over it. It was even worse than this season. So,
but Robbie, they had Felix Hernandez on that team.
They had Cesar Valdez too. No, hold up. One quick point though. I mentioned Jorge Lopez. Jorge Lopez is filthy. Okay, James will probably attest this because I think you saw Jorge Lopez pitch the other day. That guy is ridiculously good. Super underrated for the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, no, he's good. The Orioles have pitched really well this year. Bruce Zimmerman, Jordan Lyles on Sunday pitched well. Their home ERA is 2.10. Moving that left field wall back has paid dividends for them.
Yeah, that's been quite the difference for them. I mean, personally, I think that take about Jorge Lopez is so good that we should probably just forgive Robbie completely for that.
I think you should forgive me over everything.
Yeah, I mean, Juan Soto is an average player, and the Orioles were better last year. So
I mean, we'll ignore those. Those definitely are not going to be a part of my highlights when this is all said and done.
In all seriousness, Robbie, thank you for playing along. It seemed like an appropriate way to go out. We had some great takes over the show's history. Appreciate it. We love you dearly.
Yes, and I'm very glad that I had the opportunity to share with you, the audience, some of those terrible takes. But I've been right. I'm your daily sports truth. I've been right more times than I've been wrong.
We might need a fact checker on that one. And with that said, that leaves us with about 5 minutes here. So we had a little bit of fun here, but why don't we be serious for a little bit? Because honestly, there's a lot to be thankful for, and we've done this show for almost 4 years now, and it's incredible to think about because it's while we're at school, while we've been at Catholic University of America, this has just been a constant in our lives. Every single Tuesday or Wednesday night, we did it Wednesday for 1 year. It's just been something you do. It's part of your week in and week out, and it's going to feel really weird to not have this anymore. So I just want to take this last 5 minutes for each of us to reflect a little bit. James, why don't we start with you? Now, James, it's funny, you actually were first on this show in the spring of 2019, and we had you on to debate Robbie in a Red Sox versus Yankees debate.
That was a good debate.
It was a great debate. It got very heated. And I'll talk a little more about the decision to have James come on and everything when I get to my reflection. But James, why don't you talk just a little bit about your time here on NPNC and what it's meant to you?
I've enjoyed it greatly. I met Andrew freshman year in my Spanish class, and I met Robbie through him after that. And I knew they were doing this show, and then I knew they were avid baseball fans. I mean, Andrew and I would always talk about baseball, our freshman year, especially in the fall. That was when the Red Sox won the World Series in 2018. So it was something I finally, I came to college and I had someone to talk ball about, someone who watched baseball every day just like myself, albeit a long-suffering Phillies fan. But, it was something that, I knew that the passion was there. And, after meeting Robbie and Andrew, it was like, these guys obviously know what they're talking about. They're not just, two jabronis who act like they watch baseball and don't actually know what they're talking about. So, after coming on that spring to do the debate that summer, I asked them if I could, join the show, and they graciously agreed to let me join. And it's been one of my highlights at Catholic ever since. I mean, I sent it out to all my friends, all my family. It's been something that I've really enjoyed. It just, it's the opportunity to just literally, like, we're sitting in the Priz just talking baseball, except we actually have a platform to do it, and we actually, we can't be as biased or as heated as we are, sometimes when we're off air. But, it's been a lot of fun, seeing, everyone's different opinions. Robbie's fourth place Baltimore Orioles take for 2021. The list goes on. But, just talking baseball and, building that friendship, because it's more than just three guys who, talk baseball and that's it, and then we go our separate ways. I mean, that's not true. Like, we've built our friendship over this, and it's something that we'll always have. The game of baseball will always be there, but I think when we think about baseball and we talk about baseball, we'll always have this memory of coming on every Tuesday night or Wednesday night. During college, it wasn't just like it was one semester, it was for 3 years. Like, it was a routine, and it was something that we all took pride in, and I think we all did a great job in doing it. So I express a tremendous amount of gratitude to you two for allowing me to come on your show, because everyone that I send it to, I say my show, but it's not my show. It's your guys' show that I'm fortunate enough to co-host with, and it's been a blast the last 3 years. I've really enjoyed talking baseball, and just because this is the last one here at Catholic doesn't mean we're going to stop talking baseball with each other, and that doesn't mean one day down the road maybe we don't pick this up in a couple of years and start a podcast. Who knows what happens? But it's been great. I've enjoyed the bond that I've shared with you guys, and I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to come on.
James, I think Robbie and I can agree it is as much your show as well, 100%.
100%.
And very well said. Thank you.
And also one quick thing in response. So I remember my sophomore year, Andrew and I were roommates in Opus, and Andrew said that James wanted to talk to both him and I about something, and he said, I think it has to do with him wanting to potentially join the podcast, and we discussed whether we would want James to join, and immediately we knew that he was the kind of guy that we wanted to have on our show. James, obviously, we always joke around, he's the baseball encyclopedia. He's been absolutely great just marketing for the show, sending it to all of his friends, his family. We really appreciate you, the audience, for tuning in as much as you can and listening to our ridiculous takes and stuff.
My sophomore year, I had Dr. Rob's class
listening
Rob. For our for our extra credit finance question.
Yeah,
that came to me during the middle of that. I meant to mention that.
An NPNC legend. Yeah. He was on this show every single week.
Giving out a bonus question to the quiz.
Bonus question on the quiz every single week, and our listenership during that would skyrocket. Everyone would tune in to hear Dr. Rob.
Absolutely. And overall, though, James, from my side of things, before I let Andrew get to it, it's been such a privilege working with you during the show. You've done a great job when it comes to advertising, and also coming up with great things that we can talk about. You've brought in great insight, and this is something that I really would like to continue just talking baseball with you. The friendship that the three of us have is really special, and I'm beyond grateful that we've had the opportunity to get to know each other, especially through the radio, man. It's been such a pleasure for me, for sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Robbie, did you want to give out your closing take here, or do you want to go last?
Give it out.
Your call. Because I'll tell you why it's your call. Because this is your show. This was your show to begin with.
I'll let you say it, because then I'll tell the story about how the show. I'll close with how the show came to be.
So, to echo a lot of what James said. Well, firstly, I mean, and I'll briefly say this here. Robbie can give a little more in depth, but this show, Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital, in 2018. Was called the Robbie Cruz Show.
It was,
and this was a radio slot, and this was back when WCOA was like still pretty like there was a lot of people doing it, and of course it's not the same now. I'm sorry, WCOA, like you can't kick me off the air at this point. I mean, it's our last episode, but it's not the same now. It's just not, and it's unfortunate, but that's not how it was back then, right? And Robbie Cruz had the Robbie Cruz Show. It was on 6 p.m. on Tuesday nights. And I remember after we met each other through our media class, Media 201, of course.
201, of course.
Learned a lot about analyzing movies in that class. And he said, you're the guy who likes Moneyball. That's your favorite movie, right? And I said, yeah, it's one of them. Started talking about baseball, and I just remember a couple months later, he said to me, I have this radio show slot. I'm not really doing a whole lot with it. Would you like to come on and do it with me and talk about baseball? And I'll let Robbie get into more of that, but just first and foremost, just incredibly grateful for Robbie for thinking of me for that, because at that point, and I mean, and still, it's still a lofty dream for me to actually do this professionally, right? And I think that that's something that's so cool about this here at WCUA and CUA in general, is this gave us an opportunity to live a dream that realistically, maybe we don't pursue this. Maybe we do, like James said, maybe we pick up a podcast eventually. But even if we don't, we got to live this for 3 years. And on the level that it is, even though it's not ginormous, it still meant a lot to us, right? And just to go back to James joining, right? Robbie said he's the baseball encyclopedia. James, I could not imagine this show over the past 2.5 years without you. The fact that anytime we need to have some sort of stat or some standing or whatever, you don't even have to look it up. You're just immediately ready to go. And I remember when you first came on, like I just remember how intense it was. It was like when we flip over to you for a take, you would have it ready to go, man, and you would just go off, and everything was good. And honestly, just incredible, intense energy, and the show would not be the same without you, James. So thank you so much for joining us. And honestly, everything that he said is so true. We're bonded for life over this project now. We've had so much fun, and like James said, we have a friendship now that will last a lifetime. We are never not going to be texting each other in the middle of games, whether it be 10 years from now when the Phillies still haven't made the playoffs. These guys will be here to send me memes and make me feel even worse or better about myself, depending on how they're feeling, or whether the Yankees or Red Sox are doing something, and I'll be the first one to send a meme about how both Lakers fans and Yankees fans are disappointed tonight. Whatever it may be.
Don't forget the Cowboys in there either.
And the Cowboys as well, of course. And
I'm not a Cowboys fan, for those of you who don't know.
Record,
most of them are.
For the record, he's not. But this is something that we are going to be able to do for life now, and it's because of this show. And just a thank you to all the listeners. There's a select few of people, right? My mom, my dad, my grandparents, my girlfriend. There's been a lot of people who have quite literally listened to every single episode that I have ever done of this, and I'm truly thankful for that, because this is a small project overall. But like I said, this has allowed me to live out what has been essentially a dream for me since I was a child. So thank you all very much for that. Thank you for everyone who listened. Even if you did it just once, if you did to every episode. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a few, my parents, obviously. I've got a few uncles. My girlfriend, obviously. My good friend Travis. Who calls in. Obviously, he's the man with the phone and the takes on the hotline, as we call it, Shout out to you guys as well. I thank you for supporting me.
And with that, why don't we turn it over to the man who started this show as the Robbie Cruz Show in fall of 2018. Robbie, final thoughts on Nation's Pastime.
Okay, guys, so a quick story for you. So most of you guys, well, none of you guys know this, but I'm a communications major here, and I came here thinking that I wanted to go into sports broadcasting and journalism. For those of you who don't know, that's not the route that I will be taking next year, for I have a job in tech software. But when I came here, I really wanted to get a head start on my career. I really wanted to do things that I think would really bolster my resume. So I joined WCUA Radio. The only problem is that I didn't know anybody before I came to Catholic University. I quickly made friends here, but none of them really knew baseball. None of them really loved the sport like I did. My friends would always laugh at me for being really upset over watching games, and they didn't understand the pain that sports entails on you. So I then met Andrew. I walked up to him during dinner one day and I said, "You're the Moneyball kid," and we instantly just hit it off and developed a special friendship. And because I was a part of WCUA radio, I had the slot reserved. I learned how to work the soundboard, and I never had a show, to be quite frank. And I just had my show named The Robbie Cruz Show because I couldn't think of anything else. Then during right before winter break of our freshman year, Andrew and I went to a campus ministry event together. And at that campus ministry event, I said, "Bro, I have this slot saved for us to do a baseball show on WCUA. It would be a radio show. It would be a great experience for both of us. And it's something that's going to help us in our careers." And I'm beyond grateful and thankful that without hesitation, you said, "Let's do it." Like I
couldn't have any other answer.
There was no debate, no thought, nothing. And so we then come into the studio when we get back from winter break, and we're learning how the soundboard works. One of Andrew's friends calls in on the show. Like it was like a 20-minute informal show.
Yeah.
And right away we were like, "This is absolutely awesome. This is something that we need to continue." And so we continued the show. We were doing really great things, and I remember our first ever guest, the first ever episode we had was with Paul Sikoris.
Paul Sikoris, shout out to him.
Yeah, the guy who predicted Manny Machado to the Padres.
Machado to the Padres.
And so the show was just absolutely great overall. And then we had the debate with James coming on, and like I said, I'm really grateful and thankful that Andrew said yes to doing the show with me, but also the fact that James was so eager to come onto the show with us. And it's been such a wonderful 4 years here at WCUA Radio, and I'm so grateful and thankful I've had the opportunity to do it with Andrew and James. But also I'm very grateful and thankful for you, the listeners. Thank you so much for taking an hour out of your Tuesdays to listen to the three of us talk about sports. Some of you guys don't even follow baseball, and you still listen to us, and that means so much. So overall, it's going to be a really emotional time leaving Catholic University and also WCUA Studio. This is obviously one of the highlights of my time here at CUA. I've had such a great time, and I'm just really thankful and grateful that you, Andrew, agreed to do this with me and that you've had so much passion doing this. And James, you doing this as well. It's been a really great time, and I'm so grateful and blessed to say that we've had the opportunity to work together.
Thank you, Robbie. Honestly, all of it boils down to you at the end of the day. You got the slot. You had the drive to do that. And you know what? And you brought in the right people. You brought in the right people to make the dream a reality.
Yes, I did, and it's been great. And even through the pandemic, we still made it work. So, I remember James and I did some shows together alone. The three of us did shows together. We made it work. Honestly, I'm so proud of the things that all of us have done together. We've really done great things. And thank you again for always listening into our To Nation's Pastime, Nation's Capital, formerly the Robbie Cruz Show. But
formerly.
I honestly... Also, the work that you guys have just done has just been absolutely incredible, and I'm so proud of you guys.
For one final time, the stove is hot.
The stove is
hot. The stove is hot!
And for something, I would have loved to play that clip. I was afraid for the ears of our listeners. In case you missed that one, that was like 2 years ago at this point. That was 2020.
It was the winter meetings of 19.
It was the winter meetings of 19, yeah. So
because it was right when Strasburg and Rendon and Cole were all signing.
That's right. So I apologize for not having that one, but also I don't. I don't apologize because I think your ears will be safe from that. But yeah, honestly, thank you, Robbie. Thank you for getting the slot. Thank you to James for coming on. This show would not be the same without all of us. We like I said, we formed a bond that will be. It'll be true for life now, and this is a true constant in our lives here in college that will now be coming to an end, and it will be hard. It'll be hard not to do this every Tuesday. So thank you to everyone who listened. Thank you to everyone here in the booth. Thank you to WCUA and CUA in general for giving us an opportunity to live out a dream here. And for one final time, have a great rest of your evening.
Peace out, and God bless.